Welcome to Beyond the Muscle. I'm really pleased to welcome our next guest, Marc Willetts, also known as MJW Fitness on Instagram. So, Mark is a natural bodybuilder. He's an online coach and posing coach, and now a two-time classic bodybuilding champion. Yeah, welcome to the show, Mark. Really good to have you here. And yeah, you had a great season, obviously, becoming classic bodybuilding champion again. I'm going to try and do a quick summary, make sure I've got this all right.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's
Um,
see you back. See your research.
yeah, I have a bit of research here. So, yeah, so you started the season by finishing third at the BNBF Midlands, is that right?
Correct.
The qualifier, then second at the British finals, and then went on to win and yeah, retain your or regain your title rather, uh, with the UK DFBA, becoming British Classic champion again. So yeah, obviously a great season, Mark. How was it from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, retaining, sort of regaining the British title was the goal. That was the
Mm.
number one goal. So doing that was a sort of very satisfying feeling. Um, as you know, when you compete, it's about peaking in the right sort of time frame. So, be getting third, I wasn't happy about, being truthfully.
Yeah, yeah,
That hurt because obviously the last time I went on stage, I was the British champ 2 years before the UKFBA. So the next
right.
time on stage, getting third at a qualifier, it stung, but it was
Yeah.
rightfully, like, the decision was correct,
Mhm.
obviously due to condition, but it was all part of the kind of plan to obviously save a bit in the tank. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was an interesting season. Obviously, new faces on the scene. People are getting better. As you saw, people get better and better. You have
Mm.
to play a better game. Some of these young lads now
Yeah,
are
that's
really,
crazy.
yeah, it's crazy that where they come from. Early 20s. It's mind blowing, but
Yeah.
good season. Happy with the season.
Mhm.
It did get cut short. Winning
Okay,
the bid was going to go to Romania
I
and
see.
do
Right,
the.
right. Oh, I didn't know them.
Yeah, that was part of that. Was I was going to do it. A few things happened in our kind of life which sort of put an end to carrying on the season, but
Got it.
uh, it was a long prep, as you know. Preps natural bodybuilding takes a long time, right? We started in just before March, so
Right.
it's a good 30, I don't know, 32, 33 weeks, something like
Mm.
that.
Got it.
Which again, best I've ever looked. It
Mm.
shows proofs in the pudding. Longer preps, in my opinion, for natural bodybuilders is key.
Yeah, yeah.
Longer
And
the better. So it's just about taking that data and then just deciding what I'm going to do in the future, I suppose.
yeah, no, that makes sense. And your physique definitely improved from looking back at your pictures from show to show. Yeah, like from first to last show, yeah, there's a big, like a drastic improvement there for sure.
I think so. Like, it was always sort of, there was nowhere weak on the physique. It was
Mm.
more of a condition
Okay, yeah.
problem, I'd say, as such. Like, I was always in decent shape, but
Yeah.
it was just bringing in that, like, real competitive top class, like, natural conditioning
Mm.
to get the places I wanted to get, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. And classic's an interesting one as well, I suppose, because yeah, conditioning is obviously super important, and some of the guys do come in shredded, but then
Yeah,
you do see some guys that are coming a little bit softer. But with the shape and the flow they have, you can kind of
100%.
get away with it.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail there. Like, yes, you've got to be conditioned 100%, but classic's so, it's shape, isn't it? And
Mm.
you can't just say you're classic. It's like your structure dictates if you're classic or not. You can have
Yeah.
more muscle and shape or whatever, but if you're not, shape is not given as a classic, then you're
Mm.
not going to get rewarded as a
Yeah.
classic bodybuilder. And I think some federations sometimes get a bit confused by it, like what
Yeah.
is classic, because it's quite new, isn't it? In the natural
Yeah.
bodybuilder, it's new. Um, so yeah, it's, I suppose each year it gets a little bit different. You get a few decisions across the board, and you think, even I don't know, like, what, I don't even know what they're looking for here, I suppose. So
It's an
yeah,
interesting one. Yeah. And maybe in time everyone will kind of come together and decide collectively what should be like the classic look, maybe. But yeah,
totally. Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
that's interesting.
I've got like a picture of what I kind of think is classic,
Mm.
which could be different to what other people think.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, the judges have got their own, like, criteria, I suppose. So it's just whether you are touching those criteria points.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, no, that's interesting. I'm definitely going to delve into that the whole
Yeah,
classic topic of it because I find it interesting. But yeah, going onto your training, Mark. See, I really obviously having seen a lot of your YouTube and sorry Instagram like videos. Yeah, I really like the way you train. You seem to place a lot of emphasis on technique, which is obviously something us bodybuilders is very
yeah,
important to us. Um, I want to dive into that a little bit, but before that, can you tell us a bit about like your journey to the stage? Like, where did the whole
yeah.
love for bodybuilding start for you?
It's, it's a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah.
So as we spoke earlier, I've been a personal trainer pretty much all my working life. Before I was a bodybuilder, I was a break dancer.
Ah,
That was my job.
yeah,
So that coincided with gymnastics. That was my background for many years. So I was almost like a professional break dancer. That was my job. So
mm,
I taught classes, did performances for certain companies, and circled the country doing seminars, performances,
right,
dancing.
right. Well,
Um, Back then, it was kind of unheard of. Back then, like it was when Britain's Got Talent first started. It was kind of those eras where breakdancing, no one knew what it kind of was.
right.
It was more like an American thing. So I did that for many years, which was amazing. Me and my friend, we had a little crew
Right,
of
right.
us.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not going to give you the name in
No,
case.
that's fine. Oh, yeah, I'll quickly Google it. Yeah.
But it led me to have quite a good physique, shall we say? Like I was a small lad and I was athletic, and I had good muscle, I suppose. Just
Mm,
very small. Obviously, no weight training, all body weight. Good midsection, shall we say?
mm,
Um, Used to be a member of a gym to use their studio. I was personal training already qualified, but I didn't want to go and work in a gym. The gym owner said, "Why don't you just work here and you get a free membership and you can use the studio for free?" I
right,
was like,
nice.
"Decent, I like it."
Mm,
So started working in the gym to use the studio. That crept into meeting members who did weights,
mm,
and they were like, "Why don't you just do chest day with us?"
right, right.
Obviously, did a bit of chest day. And
Mm,
it basically just sort of gradually built into me not breakdancing as much and doing more weight training.
right, right.
I got a little bit bigger. The bigger you are, you can't really breakdance because you need to be super flexible.
Yeah.
Uh, so in the end, I was getting worse at breakdancing because I was
Right, right.
too big. Um, and then it just one day just sort of clicked. I looked into like natural bodybuilding shows, and I think I did a show. I started dieting for about 5 weeks,
Right.
and I jumped into an MPA show down
Yeah.
south, and that was my first kind of understanding of what natural bodybuilding was.
Yeah.
Um, as a guy who works, I'm quite strict to myself, and I want to do
Mm,
well.
yeah.
I did pretty well. It just set me in that path of like, wow, this is what it's going to be like. I kind of like that. I kind of like
Mm,
getting, I kind of like doing well. I may be good at this.
yeah.
Let's see how it can go, and that's kind of how it went, really. And now we're here. I don't know, 11 years
Mm,
maybe, something like that. 11 years
yes.
ago, 12 years
When
ago.
was your first? Was it 2015, your first season, or who did you compete before that?
I think my first show was the MPA in 2000. I'd have to look because I've got the picture, and
Right, yeah, yeah.
I'm in a magazine somewhere with the winner.
I
But
see.
I think it was either two. I think it might be 212 or 215. It's around that date. I'd have to
Right.
research it fully.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, so you've been in this game for a while. Yeah.
Been in the game a long time, and then kind of every other year, kind of roughly since then, I did another show or another
Mm,
season.
yeah.
And back then, I took it seriously, but I'd only do kind of one or two shows. That's the truth, and then I'd just go
Right.
back for another year or two. I didn't do like many shows and try and get into the finals and do it. Yeah, I just did kind of. I think I did a qualifier, maybe another qualifier, and then if I didn't do the final, I'd just go into the off season.
Got it. Right, right. Okay. No, that makes sense. Who were like the big who are the people that inspired you back in the day?
Yeah,
The
so
Arnolds and that
yeah,
lot?
back then it was I only sort of knew one natural bodybuilder, and his name was Richard Gadzecki, and that's the truth.
Okay.
I type, yeah, natural bodybuilding. Turns out he owns the gym where I live now.
Right,
But
right.
he was the sort of the guy I'd look at as the natural bodybuilder, and it would. He was. If you don't know him, he's huge, right? He's
Mm,
massive. I'm talking probably like 94 kilo on stage,
right,
and
wow.
shredded, huge.
Yeah,
A bit tall, about 5'11", I think he was, but
yeah.
it was just inspiring to see how good you could be as a natural
Mm,
bodybuilder. I always thought, could I get like that? Like that? He's just so far away from where I was at back
mm,
then. It was just like, oof. Um, he was the kind of only one I saw really, Rich Gadzecki. And then
mm,
as the years went and I looked a bit further, you could find other bodybuilders, and
yeah.
you found like the Nathan PTs.
Mm.
I don't know his surname, Nathan.
Nathan Barnes, is that?
No,
Oh no,
Nathan.
Nathan Williams.
Yeah, that's it. Nathan
Yep,
Williams.
yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's another Nathan who I used to
Just
go to a gym with actually, but yeah, Nathan
just
Williams. Yeah.
insane physique.
Oh yeah, crazy.
Just ridiculous. Yeah, and then obviously doing the BMBF, you see the likes of David Kay, and you just look
Mm,
at the bodybuilders who are just so far in my but so far ahead of where everyone else was.
mm,
Daunting, but also like, wow, this is like, could I get to those levels?
mm,
Could I be as big and as lean as those kind of guys are? And
yeah.
there I was, just doing
Mm,
me.
yeah, yeah. No, that's really cool. Yeah, it's interesting. You had like a natural inspiration early on, to be fair, because yeah, when I first got into bodybuilding, I definitely wasn't even aware it was a thing. I wanted to
Yeah,
just be jacked, and I think I did it just to attract women, and that was futile
yeah,
at the time.
yeah, yeah.
It definitely didn't work at the time.
Yeah.
I know that yeah, Arnold was obviously like a big inspiration for me, and then like the then bodybuilders like Lee Priest and Jay Cutler, Roddy Coleman, and I love those like freaky, the look of those freaky 2000s guys. But I definitely did still prefer the classic Arnold era bodybuilders, 70s and 80s. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
they're obviously just a ton more aesthetic in my opinion.
hundred
Um,
percent.
yeah, I'm curious. So obviously you competed as an open bodybuilder before moving to classic. What was it that drew you to classic specifically?
Yeah. So whenever I did get feedback from anybody and judges or people in bodybuilding, they'd always say, "Oh, you've got like that kind of golden era physique, that kind
Mm,
of like Arnold chest." And I thought, I kind of, yeah, I do. Like I have got a very small waist, and I have got a rather big chest.
yeah.
Back then, didn't obviously classic bodybuilding 11 years ago, there was no such thing at all.
Mm,
Even before like CBOM and things, there was no
yeah.
classic bodybuilding. Then when it came out, and obviously the enhanced IFBB classic bodybuilding with Breon, Ansley, and then your CBOM, obviously they're a total kind of different shape to classic naturals. But
Mm,
I could see myself if it ever came out that's got to be me. Like that has got to be the look I've kind of got.
mm,
Um, Small waist, kind of big tricep, big chest.
mm,
Not crazy big legs, like the opens.
mm,
Uh, and when it came about in the UKFBA for the first time, I was like, I've got to go for it, because that season I was still competing as a middleweight in the BMBF,
mm,
and I jumped into the first classic qualifier ever for the UKFBA, and it clicked. I thought
mm,
that's got it. That's me. That's maybe I'm getting points for actually looking more like the class.
mm. Yeah, that's
Um,
interesting.
and I still like I got asked this recently, like, would I ever go back to open? And
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 100%. Like I've just got to beat Dan Sutcliffe, which I can never seem to beat.
Yeah,
Never
yeah,
beat him. I always feel like I always end up next to him. I'm like, oh, God damn it.
yeah. Was it 2021? You and him? It was you, him, and Steve
2021,
Hall, wasn't it?
and then he beat me in the qualifier. I think it was 20 another one. He beat me in another
Right,
qualifier.
right.
Well deserved. Like Dan's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So good. But yeah, so yeah, I probably would be open to like basically doing a SEAB. I'm just going to copy SEAB. I'm going to
Yeah,
retire
yeah. No,
and go, oh, why not? Just jump into the open.
fair
And so,
enough. Yeah, yeah. But it's a tough one, really, isn't it? Because yeah, I look at it as well, and it appeals to me. And it was I'm a masters athlete now, though I guess I don't have to be, but yeah, it does appeal to me as well. Yeah, I want to talk about this. This is something I haven't really spent much time thinking about it, but it's almost like a bit of a controversial topic in bodybuilding. Obviously, there are some people that argue that natural bodybuilding, like by its very nature, is already classic because you don't get like the massive enhanced
Yeah.
guys. How would you respond to those who like question the need for a separate classic division?
Yeah, I understand that because there are some open natural bodybuilders which have got a kind of a classic look, like you said, because they're a little bit smaller in size.
Mm.
But I agree with this statement because I do feel like because classic bodybuilding is so big, it's almost more popular than the open sometimes, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
That I think it's like a trend, and I think people just assume because they're not as big as an open, they're just automatically classic,
right.
which I feel is a bit sad because that's not true. Just
No,
because they are small, it doesn't make them classic, or just because they're even posing doing a vacuum, that doesn't automatically make them classic.
no.
It almost it kind of doesn't ruin it, but it just sort of makes the kind of category a bit more washed, I suppose. Which
Yeah.
cool that it's getting more like out there, but
Mm,
does it mean it's making it better? I don't know. I don't know.
mm,
And obviously, I want as many people to compete in classic and
yeah,
natural bodybuilding. I want it as big as possible,
yeah.
but it's a very hard. Yeah, it's a hard question. That is, I agree. It's a
Yeah, you
hard
know, it's something that I've heard people talk about, and I don't really have a position either way. I haven't really spent much time thinking about it, and being that I'm not a classic bodybuilder,
yeah,
like yourself, but yeah, it's tough. And but I think you hit the nail on the head when it is all about the shape. It's kind of the silhouette, isn't it?
yeah,
That's what classic's all about, isn't it? Really. So yeah,
totally.
um, I can definitely see an argument for it being there, 100%.
Yeah,
It's because I know there are so many classes both in male and female bodybuilding, but yeah, I think yeah, it probably does deserve its place. It's a unique class. And
yeah,
I suppose it encourages athletes to work on posing a bit more as well, which is something
yeah,
a lot of people overlook massively.
yeah. It's still correct. Like it is. It's still a shame and shocking that when they do step on stage, some people they haven't worked on their posing. It's still
Mm,
quite shock because I just can't believe that I'm seeing them on stage doing all that hard work and then not showcasing what they've worked for. It's I
mm.
still find it really hard to believe.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's crazy. Yeah, but obviously you're yeah quite adept at posing. Do you think does that come from like though? Is there a link between that and the break dancing? Do you think you also
Yeah,
got a
100%. So
yeah
100%. Like obviously back when Arnie was doing it, he saw a ballerina, didn't he? And
yeah yeah
yeah, I think there's definitely a link for me understanding how movements and how the body can shape and manipulate certain angles. I have definitely got that through being a break dancer because it's all about like contorting your body and twisting and rotating
right yeah
and I've always been fascinated with the body and how it looks and how it moves and biomechanics. So I think the posing just sort of fed onto that. And I
mm,
did pick up bodybuilding poses relatively easy. Like I obviously spent a lot of time doing it, but I just seem to understand of where you put your leg and how you do a lat spread and where you position your elbows. And it's
mm,
kind of clicked well. And I've obviously worked on it a lot.
yeah
My wife would probably say too much in the mirror. But it's something which I do find hard. Obviously, it's
yeah
not easy for me, but it's something that I kind of understand. If someone
yeah
says you should work that, take that a little bit that way, I kind of go, yeah, got it. I understand.
right. You've got like an innate
Yeah.
yeah
Although I had no rhythm, like my best friend who used to teach me to breakdance used to say, "You, oh, why have you got no rhythm? Like, what, you're not
right
hitting the beat."
yeah
It was
right
really a beat to a song, but I could definitely hold a sort of angle into a side sort of pose, should we say, and it'd be all right.
I see yeah no that makes sense. Yeah, I suppose there are different things, aren't they? Essentially yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think people get wrong when it comes to posing?
Probably trying too hard.
Okay.
I think the art is to obviously flex as hard as you can, but make it look effortless. That's what I
Mm,
would say. And I think people practice so much looking in the mirror that they don't, when they take that mirror away,
mm,
they get lost.
yeah
And obviously, the judges are slightly below you, right? So
yeah
you should always slightly position your physique towards the judges. But I think
mm,
because we're so used to practicing with a tripod or your phone balanced or a mirror, you think that's going to emulate what the judges see, and it's not always the case. And again, take that mirror away, it's a total different ball game. I blindfold some of my posing clients to see when we take it off. Do you think you're in the right position? I mean, sometimes they are, sometimes they're way off, and it's just put the practice in. Like it takes a long time to one, get the positions right, and then it's obviously posing endurance right, because you've been up there. The judges can put you through it, and it's hard. It's hard, and your legs start cramping or shaking, and you're kind of thinking, "Oh, put me at the back so I can get a little bit of a breather." And then as soon as you start shaking, you're not holding the positions right.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Yeah. No, very true. What would your like posing schedule look like in a competitive season?
Twice a day. So every single morning, as soon as I wake up, I do obviously my weight, blah blah blah, and then I will probably do 5 rounds of quarter turns. And then after the gym, I don't even count that, to be fair. As soon as I finished training, I would go in the studio and do some more posing rounds, but I wouldn't even count that. I'd just go through it. And then on the evening, I'd do it again.
Got it. Yeah. So pretty intensive. And that'd be every day.
The closer I get to the show, I slightly increase the length of the rounds.
Okay.
10 minutes. Each sort of, instead of 5, it'd be 10 minutes of doing it non-stop.
Got it. Right. Yeah.
Until it's just, not that it's easy, but until it's not a problem holding front relaxed for a minute and a half.
Yeah. It's funny. I've spoken to a few people with regards to posing, and there seems to be like a few different takes on it. Some will just do it a few times a week, but longer posing sessions. I was always someone like yourself. I prefer just to do it every day for a smaller amount of time. So I would do it like first thing in the morning for maybe 15 minutes, and then like yourself, a little bit at the gym as well. But I guess for me at least, being in like the deep dark stages of prep and then thinking I've got to pose for like do 1 hour of posing, even if it's just once a week, I wouldn't want to do it. But it's just a little bit daily, I found really helpful.
I think sometimes, like when I was putting my clients through 45 minutes to an hour, it's good, but their level of concentration starts to fade. As you said, you get deep in prep and your energy is low. Ask them to perform a 45-minute intense posing session, they can't remember it. So you might film it to get teaching points, but it definitely gets harder, doesn't it? And you think, do I need to do this? Can I just push it back tomorrow? But if you keep pushing it back, where does it stop? Where do you pick it back up? Where are you going to make that time back? And it shows. It will show eventually. It will catch you out.
No, so true. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I'll stick to doing little and often, I think.
Little and often.
Next time. Yeah. Slight tangent, but I'd love to hear your take on this. Like, obviously you and your wife both compete, and which is really interesting. Obviously, I met you guys this year at the Heart of England.
Yeah, that's right.
What's the dynamic like between you guys when you're both in the midst of like a competitive season?
So originally it was just me.
Right.
She wasn't a bodybuilder. She was just a normal kind of gym goer. And I competed, and she kind of was there through the first couple of preps, seeing it, and so she understood it. It's hard. Did she understand what it like felt like? No, but she understood, like, these are your meals, you eat these every few hours, blah blah blah. You do your steps, do your cardio, you do it to the gym. She understood that and was really supportive, obviously. And then during COVID, she just took her training up a level because she had a little bit more time, because we had a kind of home gym. So I kind of just trained her then, so she just got, let's say, better. And then we used to laugh about the idea, like, you should do. Yeah, we used to joke about it, like, you should do a show. No, that's your thing, that's not mine.
Right.
And then, cutting it short, she was decided, okay, fine, so let's start dieting properly. And again, I had to teach her a lot of the poses. God knows how female poses. Don't ask that.
Different ball game, isn't it?
Yeah. We had help with Darren, obviously, at the time. And for a first kind of competitive season, she just did so well. Like Ali's not someone who moans. Big successful business career, just did what it took, right?
Mm.
No excuses, didn't really moan. And was just, I think she got second in the first show she ever did, then won the British finals of the MPA straight away that first
Wow.
year. Yeah. Then we had a year, was it a year? No, we didn't even have a year off. She came back the next year, we both did. And she was the British champ of the BNBF.
Right, right. Wow.
Yeah. She got second in the British finals in the UKFBA.
Mm.
And then she won all the qualifiers
Right, right.
leading up
Amazing.
to it. Like, it kind
Mm.
of put me to shame. What's it like prepping with each other now? Honestly, completely fine because we just,
Mm.
yeah, completely fine. Obviously, we know we're not going to eat off anything off plan. That's just not
Yeah.
who we are. And if one of us is having a bad day, a bit more fatigued,
Yeah.
you can't read the room. You understand, like, oh, she needs a bit more. She needs a bit more energy from me today to give her that
Mm.
little bit of a push. But we kind of bounce. Ali's very energetic anyway, so like she
Mm.
doesn't struggle with the kind of the energy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and we do our steps together, for example.
Mm.
We
Yeah.
try and make our meals at the same time. We'd eat at the same time if we could, if she was at work or whatever. But um, honestly, I don't know how if I could prep without her now. Like, I don't know what it'd be like if she wasn't on prep and it was just me prepping. Like, I think that's us destined to compete together.
So you've synced your kind of preps for the
Yeah,
past.
yeah, we just sync it together. We pretty much
Yeah.
just start together. If she needs less time or longer time, we just adjust accordingly. But
Mm.
we,
Yeah, that's
we
really cool.
now, yeah, probably three. Is it three? 3 seasons? Yeah, 3 seasons together now.
Mm. Yeah, I guess it must
Mm.
make it a little bit easier just having it's not so much empathy because any partner is going to have
Yeah.
empathy, but yeah, the fact that you're both going through it together, it's yeah, it must
I
help.
remember the first time I competed, and she didn't even know what bodybuilding was really. She
Yeah.
probably just thought it was Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I told her, and she was like, "Yeah, that'd be fine. Like,
Mm.
would you just need to eat some like eat some meals, eat like
Mm.
no chocolate?" And I was like, "Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but it gets a little bit more like tough, and I'll have a bit less energy, and
Yeah.
we'll be able to go out, but I won't be eating food. I'll be taking some, and like
Mm.
it was hard. Put it that way, it was
Yeah.
hard. She understood and supported, but it was a hard prep,
Mm.
the first one, because it was such a shock to
Yeah.
wow, this is what it takes. Like you got to diet for 5 months eating
Mm.
like that. And I was like, yeah, I do what's necessary.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's true. I think that first prep is a shock to not just whoever's doing it, but everyone involved, really, because of how all-encompassing it becomes.
Oh
It
yeah.
just takes over, and I think I'm hoping I've only had 2 seasons, but I'm hoping that it takes over like a little bit less every season. Would that be
Yeah,
the case? Would you say?
100%. So we went to a few weddings, for example, in the
Okay.
last couple of seasons, and we took our Tupperware, but we kind of just we left that kind of our prep brain out of that kind of time. So we ate our meal in the car, then we kind of were at the wedding and really socialised, and obviously we were tired and we didn't want to stand and didn't want to dance because your legs are lead and blah
Mm,
blah blah. But you gotta live in the moment, right? And you just gotta
mm,
accept like no one else really cares that you're on prep.
mm,
Like it's their wedding, so
yeah. And were you
be there.
able to fully switch off and engage
Yeah,
with?
yeah, pretty much. So
Yeah.
obviously, yeah, pretty much. Like we were doing wrong. We were struggling by about 8 o'clock. Like we were thinking, oh god, I can't stand much more. My legs are going to give way. But pretty much,
Yeah.
we managed to switch off. I think we've been to 2 weddings. We've obviously been away quite a few times on prep, like in the country in the UK.
Mm,
You just take your Tupperware and you do kind of you live the same life, but just in a different place. But
yeah.
it's we've definitely got a lot better at handling prep, shall we say, and
Got
handling
it.
your emotions and understanding like because like you, I've got quite a good bit of freedom and flexibility that I can eat every 3 hours. If I want to eat 3 hours, I
Mhm.
can just plan that I'm eating every 3 hours. But when you're out and about and you've got things to do, you've got
Mm,
to understand like that's the real life.
yeah.
Mark, you can't eat at 10 o'clock. What do you mean I can't eat at 10 o'clock? I've got to
Mm,
eat at 10 o'clock. You're not going to die. It's not going to change your results if you eat at 10:30, mate. You're going to be okay. And
mm,
you get a bit more flexible and understand like the bigger picture is you are okay.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can, like, you've got kids, like, you're up in the night.
Mm,
That that's part of what you've got to do, right? Like,
yeah,
you can't
yeah.
go, no, I can't wake up at, I can't see. I've got cardio in 5 hours. Like, you've got to do your role, right? You've got
Mm,
stuff to do, and it is
yeah,
hard, but that's it's a sideline. Is it's still a hobby, right?
yeah.
It's not paying us any bills, so
No, no.
gotta
Yeah, no,
fit in, I
that's so
suppose.
true.
Yeah.
Having that kind of balance. Would you say that bodybuilders generally are a bit too rigid in your opinion?
Yes. In
Yeah,
my
yeah.
opinion,
Okay.
yes. And
Mm,
I've been there, and I
mm,
am there sometimes. But yes, as a whole, I think some bodybuilders take it to the extreme when,
mm.
and I think that actually has a detriment on their probably progression and physique because they're
Yeah.
so focused on only one thing and they won't change. I
Mm,
think it probably harms them, their
mm.
like progression and performance, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I get the. You can see it backstage as well. Bodybuilders. I mean, obviously you have to be focused, but you can almost sense like the tension in the air with some people. They put so much
Yeah,
pressure on
it's
themselves.
so yeah, and I tell you, yeah, backstage is a good one. It's a good point because you
Yeah.
are right. Like, we're all a bit nervous, right? We're all a bit
Mm.
nervous. We're all eating the same thing,
The
right?
same caramel
Yeah,
rice
we're all doing
cakes.
the same. Yeah, we're all
Yeah.
doing the same thing. But, like, it's like people like are like kind of like looking at you like, don't look at me,
Mm.
don't ask me a question. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
don't try and look what I'm having this secret chemical over here.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's a bit of jam and honey. It's cool. Like, don't worry. Like it, but totally agree. Like I think it's getting better, but
Mm.
on that, like some parts, it's the extremes, isn't it? Like there's extreme there, but there's also the extreme of like they're not taking it seriously,
Mm.
and then
Yeah.
they don't look great, but they should probably meet in the middle, probably.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. No, definitely 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, get the basics nailed first.
Mm.
That's fine, and then once you've got the basics, then you can sort of have a bit more flexibility.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. You almost need to go through that period of being super regimented before you can then relax a little bit.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I want to delve into your training a bit, Mark. So obviously from what I've seen from your training, you're very precise, and it's obvious to me that you're trying to extract the most from each rep that you do. You're not just going through the motions. Has that always been the case, or has your training evolved over the years?
Yeah, good question. So go back to the beginning. When I first started, I was your compound lifter,
Mm,
barbell bench, back squat, deadlift, military press. That's kind of how I just started with, and then it just kind of it stayed on that for a long time with decent technique. Probably going a little bit too low rep. Like I was that kind of guy putting like 1 or 2, 3 reps on the deadlift and doing the
right.
same as squats, quite low reps. Never on bench, but like the deadlift and squat, I was bringing those rep range quite low.
Yeah.
Obviously, the more I've got into kind of biomechanics training, I've took it a bit more seriously and understood things more and understand like how things work, shall we say?
Mm,
And like I've over the last couple of years, I've really, like you said, have really been precise with trying to make each rep the best rep I can. Uh,
mm,
Again, probably sometimes to my own detriment, possibly going, let's say, too slow on the eccentric,
right.
possibly, where I could maybe have lifted a bit more load if I'd just actually sped it up a little bit, maybe.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, definitely over the last 3, 4 years, I've really knuckled down on making an exercise as perfect as I think I can make it.
got it.
Normally I train by myself normally, so I don't normally get a spot. So it's normally taking it to failure as close to as I can without having a forced rep, shall we say.
Yeah, yeah.
It definitely I've definitely trained differently many years ago. Crazy
Mm,
volume, crazy drop sets, all these sort of things. I've done those things, and I do enjoy that. I do
yeah.
enjoy that, but I think there's a time and place to do a triple drop set
Mm,
because then you just don't recover. And I found
mm,
as I got a
no.
little bit older, you just don't recover. Like if I'm not going to recover, how's it going to benefit me?
Mm,
If
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't walk for 6 days and I'm meant to train legs again, like
Mm,
got a funny story for you. I trained with Ben Howard, if you know who he is.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I haven't spoken to him. I know of him. Yeah.
Great bodybuilder,
Yeah. Mm.
big legs, and he's intense. Like,
Mm.
and I was like, I'll just do whatever you. I'll train with you. You in the session. We'll do whatever. Oh God, we trained. It was about an hour and 15 minutes. It wasn't crazy length, but the amount of volume accrued in that kind of time.
Mm.
And I've trained with a fair few people, trained for a long time. It's up
Mm.
there with the hardest session I've ever had.
Yeah.
Didn't walk,
Right.
possibly for about a week.
Right.
To
Right.
the
Well.
point where I messaged him saying, I think you've injured me. Or my glute because I couldn't. I was sliding down the stairs on my bum. It was that. It
Wow.
was literally that bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he laughed and he was like, "Me too." And
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
male ego is like you're pushing each other. Like one more, let's go for it. Let's get a little bit heavier. But it's I enjoy that kind of. I do enjoy
Mm.
that. It's just finding that line, isn't it? Of is it going to benefit me? Is it
Yeah.
going to injure me?
I think, yeah, in some ways, those kind of sessions are, in a way, what bodybuilding is all about. But also, you can't do it every single session because you would just
Yeah,
fall to bits, right? Yeah.
yeah. It's
Mm.
yeah. Is a good. It was a good one to be fair.
Yeah, yeah, no, that sounds it. And it's sure, I mean, Dan Sutcliffe, when I spoke to him, he said, and it's certainly the same for me as well. His volume has certainly come down over the years. Is that the same for you, your training volume?
Yeah, on certain exercises, 100%, and certain say body parts, but on the contrary, some body parts have massively increased the volume.
Okay.
Like the shoulders, for example, in my opinion, a weaker body part.
Right,
In the last couple of years, I've dramatically increased how often they get touched, hit.
right, right.
Um, Same with hamstrings. These are two sort of muscle groups I've really tried to bring up by really bringing up the volume
Yeah.
and recovery, especially on shoulders. They don't seem to get hampered. They seem to be pretty
Mm.
recovered.
Yeah,
They don't niggle, but they don't seem to hurt, shall we say, and respond well from high volume.
yeah.
But yeah, when I was a lot younger, I would do like many sets. Like chest day would be like 3 sets of that, 3 sets of that, 3 sets of that. Just keep
Mm.
doing every single exercise I could do to do the chest, for
Yeah,
example.
right, right.
Who knows? Like you just type in Jay Cutler chest training, and then you
Yeah,
copy,
yeah.
and he would be doing 4 sets of 12 on
Hmm.
everything. You'd be like, oh, I'll do that. That'll work for me.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. No,
Little did you know.
okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. And with your current like training split, how many days a week are you training?
Right now, I do 2 on, 1 off.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now, and it feels good actually.
Mm.
If I feel great, I will do a third session,
Hmm.
1 off. But most of the time, especially as of late, since competing, I'm
Yeah,
on the 2 on, 1 off, and I've been enjoying it actually because the third day I'm starting to feel like, oh, I could go today, but I'm like, no, Mark, listen, just rest.
right.
Then the fourth, when you go back in, you feel great and everything feels good. No, like sort of aches or pains. Everything's flying. Progression's feeling good.
Mm.
Motivated to get in the gym. Because I used to get to the point where I might do 3 or 4 in a row.
Yeah.
Motivation was a little bit lower. Felt a bit
Mm.
draggy. Have a little bit more caffeine.
Yeah.
Pre-workout. Get in
Mm.
there, and you were okay. But it was probably just overkill. Probably.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
2 on, 1 off. I do a legs, a push, a rest, a pull, and then I'll just repeat, yeah, like that. And I
Got it.
just
Right, yeah.
it's
Oh,
averaging
that's
between
interesting.
4 to 5 sessions per every 7 days,
Depends,
roughly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, see
roughly.
that it does appeal to me, that kind of program. The only issue is that I'd end up training on different days each week and like it's hard to train on certain days with the kids and stuff. So
Oh yeah, because I've got that flexibility where
yeah,
the kind of days don't really mean much to me, mate. Like
right.
it's just another day. Like our days can just flow unless we're trying
Mm.
to do something, but our days can just rotate, like you said. If
Mm.
you need a bit more structure and they've got to be set days,
Mm.
it's going to be a little bit tougher.
Yeah, yeah. No, but I can definitely see the benefit of doing that. 'Cause my current split, I do 5 days as well. If I can, I'll do Monday to Friday, 5 consecutive days, and then 2 days
Right.
off, which is
Yeah,
quite
yeah,
brutal. This week, I wasn't feeling it on Thursday, a leg day, so I had a rest day, and I can train tomorrow instead.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I'm jealous. I might speak to Sarah, see what I can do. But yeah, I don't think I don't think that style of training's on the cards for me at the moment. But I think that is optimal, isn't it? Really? That is
I
a
think so. I mean, there were times when I used to go in twice. I used to do two
yeah,
sessions a day for a
yeah. I've done
bit.
that a few times. It's pretty
Yeah.
feel tired by the second one though, I found.
Oh, honestly, you feel you don't feel great, but it's nice going. Oh, I've got a second session later. That's superb.
Mm,
Like, I love the gym, and
yeah.
that's what me and my wife always say. Like, before bodybuilding, I loved training.
Mm,
I just like exercise and I like training and pushing myself. So bodybuilding kind of fell into it. Like, you enjoy training, you enjoy pushing yourself. It's you versus you.
mm,
It's only you who can eat the food and you who can gym. It's putting the work in. It's no one else.
yeah.
Um, so it's kind of I miss it. If I don't train, I miss it. If I go on holiday, I don't rest. I find a gym. I go
Yeah.
to the gym. I try and do the same split, give or take, but I don't just take time off the gym. It's just what I do.
Mm, yeah. No, that's good. And you're so right. You have to have that love for training before you can then, I guess, almost graduate to bodybuilding, really. That's
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a good point. I think people just jump straight into bodybuilding because that's kind of what they think they've got to do. Like,
mm,
oh, I've been training for a bit now. Maybe I'll do a bodybuilding show.
mm,
Boy,
yeah,
just
yeah.
enjoy the newbie. Just enjoy it all. Just enjoy training. Have some fun. Train hard. Feel good.
Mm,
Don't think about that you've got to jump on a bodybuilding stage because
mm.
there's no pressure to do that.
No, no, that's the thing. Social media, I think, is a
Yeah,
part of the reason why.
I
I'd
think
be
so.
curious to know. So going back to your training a little bit, do you place more emphasis on some body parts and less on others to get more of that kind of classic look that you're after?
So a little bit. I would say I would reduce volume on a stronger body part. So for me, my chest is a stronger body part. So the volume I do on that is a lot less
Yeah.
than my shoulders. My connection for chest is pretty good. I do a couple of exercises and I feel good on it.
Mm,
I push it, but I don't do as much volume as I would on a weaker body part. I
right,
don't necessarily focus on a body part to look more classic, as you
right.
say.
Okay.
I don't do that as such, but I would just think where my physique would look better as a classic bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Where would I personally go? You need a little bit more width on your lats, for example. Let's work on a bit more lats. Your arms are looking a bit thin from the rear shots, so let's work a bit more depth on the tricep, for example. But yeah, not as a I wouldn't just go, you want to be a classic bodybuilder, you need to have
Mm,
chest. Let's just prioritize chest. Yeah, so I wouldn't do that. No.
right, right. Yeah, I guess it depends on each individual and our own
Yeah.
genetics and structure. Yeah, that makes sense.
I remember because I, like you, love Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Mm.
That is one of the like my first pet when I was a young boy was called Arnie, a little hamster. And as you know, my dog now is called Arnie.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember looking at Arnie and Frank Zane and trying to
Mm,
find out their training methods and looking for their measurements. And I remember looking at Frank Zane, who I believe
mm,
very classic bodybuilder,
mm.
one of the OGs.
Yeah,
I was looking at his measurements, and I was a little bit taller than me. His measurements were very similar to what mine are close to now
right.
as a on stage. It's a little bit heavier, but very similar kind of stats as a measurements.
Yeah.
Not Arnie, obviously. Arnie was 50-inch chest, but
Yeah,
I
like
like to
massive
believe I've got
57
those.
inch chest, wasn't it?
Yeah, crazy, isn't it? Yeah, and 20-inch arms and whatever
Yeah, yeah,
calves he had.
yeah. Yeah, okay. So that makes sense. You don't train specifically to be a classic model. You just, yeah, you're kind of bringing up what you feel needs to be brought up. Yeah.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
area
totally.
specifically do you feel? So you mentioned shoulders. Is that something you're working on for your next, like, for your return to stage?
Yeah, so in my opinion, again, my weaker body parts will have always been not the posterior chain, but like the lower part of the posterior chain, so like the glute hamstring kind of area. My
Yeah.
back was always okay because of the background in gymnastics and doing rings and things like that. So it was always and pull ups. It was always a stronger body part.
Yeah.
But when I did get a back injury, like a legit one,
Mm.
I didn't do any hip hinging for 3 years at
Right.
all. No hip hinge, none at all. I barely trained hamstrings. I
Mm.
literally just focused on quads because that's all I could do.
Yeah.
And obviously, that did create a slight imbalance in terms of how much muscle I had on that given area.
Right.
So over the last, I don't know, 4 years, it's always been more of a sort of focus area to
Got it.
bring that area up. I think last year it was definitely the most balanced physique I've
Mm.
ever had. I don't think there was a weakness
Hmm.
in how much muscle I had on that area. Now I
Yeah.
think that it's pretty. I think it's brought up a lot. But I've put the work in. Like I
Yeah.
really have put the work in on the hamstrings and glutes. Like I do train them hard. Anyone
Mm.
who trains with me will go, yeah, I do train them hard
Mm.
with decent technique. And obviously, there's always more to come, hopefully.
Yeah.
And I still would like more hamstrings, more legs, bigger shoulders. I would
Mm.
want bigger everywhere, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I want improvements. Yeah, I want improvements everywhere. I mean, off the difference from me from off season to kind of stage is dramatic. Like I walk around a lot bigger, heavier than I do on stage.
Okay.
Um, and I do shed a fair amount of weight from that, like from peak off season to stage. I do.
Yeah.
Um, but I think I've always done that,
Mm.
and I've got better every time I've stepped on stage.
Mm.
Each competitive season,
Oh yeah.
I am getting better. Even though my training experience is getting longer, and the newbie gains have gone,
Mm.
and I'm obviously getting a bit older, but I'm definitely still building a decent amount of muscle
Yeah.
every time I step on stage.
Yeah. Now you've clearly made big improvements. Like looking back at all your shows, yeah, and certainly the early ones, like your physique compared to then is like night and day. It's crazy. Um.
What's funny is I'm 3 kilo lighter than probably one of my first shows
Really. Right.
on
Right. Yeah.
stage.
It's funny,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I think I stepped on the MPA like 74 kilos, something like
Right.
that.
Right. Okay.
But
Yeah.
obviously, nowhere near in true condition.
Mm.
Just kind of lean, shall we say?
Yeah.
And it just shows you we've always got more fat to come off, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, that's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, it almost messes with your head when you have an idea of how much you need to get to, and then you end up eating lighter, and it's I thought I was gonna be
Yeah.
heavier, but
Like
yeah,
last year when I was doing it, I was like, I'm gonna be a good, maybe a kilo heavier this time round, and
right,
then
right,
it just kept coming off, and I thought,
yeah,
nah, it's definitely getting lighter.
yeah. What was your last stage weight? As in the last season you competed prior to 2024? Was it comparable?
It weren't far off. I was so the final low weigh in on 2023, 22. I weighed 71.2 kilo.
Right, right, okay,
Don't get me wrong. This time I did a fat load, so I reduced the carbohydrates to glycogen. So I went down to 70 flat.
right,
So it was about a kilo with a bit lighter. But again, it's hard to know because I was very depleted from
yeah,
any glycogen. But definitely when I put the side by sides up, I can definitely tell like I've definitely brought a little bit more condition than I've ever touched before.
mm, yeah, yeah,
It didn't actually hurt as much this time. You know, like you
really,
say, like it didn't hurt as much to get in that condition. Last time it sucked. It
mm,
hurt me. This time I got there relatively okay, and I was
yeah,
like, I'm not too bad. Energy's all right.
mm,
Last few weeks did suck. Obviously, you diet, as you know, diet for 7 months and then come back to somebody. It does get hard, but
yeah,
it was okay in the end. Really, I could have kept going.
yeah,
Yeah.
interesting, yeah. What? Yeah. Do you think your condition will be comparable? You look lean enough. That's the thing. You look lean last time you were on stage. I think for certainly for yeah. Is it? Do you think you would go for a leaner look next time or not?
I don't know. Good question. I don't know. I don't know whether find that balance, isn't it? Would a leaner
Mm,
look make me look better as a bodybuilder, like a
every
natural
time.
classic bodybuilder? I don't know.
Mm,
You're looking for that kind of maybe not a fuller look, but like a kind of rounder look for that classic look. But you're looking for that. It's a good question. It's about finding that balance, isn't it? I
mm,
think if I get any leaner, I think it might be a detriment. I think it might start to look a bit like a bit too slim, like a bit of a
right.
slim layer, maybe a bit not flat because I think it might burn into a bit of more muscle if I did it and lose that kind of full. belly I might have.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, it really is a balancing act. And I suppose, yeah, maybe with classic even more so because the emphasis is so much on that shape.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm going to ask you this question, Mark. So I think, yeah, you've been doing this a while. I think you'd be a great person to ask this. What advice would you give to someone who is thinking of competing for the first time?
I would say if you're thinking about competing, understand, try and work out why you want to compete. Is it for yourself or is it because of social media?
Mm,
Feeling the pressure to do it, and understand that you are only a first timer once.
mm,
So bear that in mind. And I would say also, if you are thinking about competing, have you done a diet already? Have you
yeah.
undertaken a proper diet first? Because I hadn't,
Right,
and
right, okay.
it's just up to the system, right? If you're just a
Yeah.
lad who walks around quite lean but eats a bit of junk, understand that when you've got to do it properly,
Mm,
are you ready for that? Are you ready to do a bit? Are you ready to have a little bit of sacrifice and really be disciplined? Because it is a shock to the system.
mm,
It's hard. And then obviously just enjoy that journey, because at the time when it is hard, it's slow, isn't it? You feel like
mm,
it's going to take forever, but before you know it, you're pumping up backstage.
mm.
That's
Yeah.
that's how I feel. Sometimes I'm like, wow, I'm 20 weeks out. Next
Mm,
thing you know, you're 4 weeks out, and you think, oh God, I'm 4 weeks
mm.
out. Then you're on stage. Then the weekend, you're getting your tan on. You're
Yeah.
like, oh God, I'm here, and then it's over, right? It could be over,
Mm,
and what have you took from that? So definitely try and live in the moment and taking data or taking the memories, whatever you need to get
mm.
from that prep.
Yeah. No, great point. Yeah, really
My
good point.
days, like I just did some dieting really early days. I just did some dieting, like I said, 5 weeks. I just jumped in. I started just dropped all my carbs. Thought that's what I did.
Right, right.
Yeah, dropped all the carbs, dehydrated properly, didn't drink water for like 30 hours to see if that
Wow,
helped.
wow.
Yeah, really old school things, and fasted cardio. Not that you don't need to do, but really took it to the extremes to see.
Yeah.
And obviously some bits pay off. Of course it does, because you're in a calorie deficit, aren't you? You're losing
Mm,
body
yeah.
fat, right? But ultimately, I felt worse in those 5 weeks compared to doing 32 weeks last season.
Right, right. Yeah, that says it all really, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I couldn't wait for it to be over to get back to kind of some normality. And
Mm,
that's not what bodybuilding is.
no.
Bodybuilding is like a lifestyle. Yes, you've got your on season, your off season, but
Mm,
they should be very similar, right? You
mm.
just allow more food.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
all it is, right? And a bit more flexibility, but you live the same life if you want to be a good bodybuilder as you do on prep.
No, that's so true. Really good point there. I do wonder if the people that keep the on season and the off season as similar as possible just have an easier time with prep generally. Yeah, I really
Yeah,
do.
yeah, and I definitely lived completely different lives
Right.
for the first couple of years of being a bodybuilder.
Mm,
Definitely impacted my success 100%. But I
mm,
was younger and naive and thought that's what was okay. But again, like we said earlier, I think there's definitely a compromise where
mm,
you've got to meet in the middle, 100%.
mm. Yeah, no, really good point there. Yeah. I especially liked what you said about the doing the diet before the not the pre-prep diet, but doing having a phase of dieting. Know what it's
Yes,
like to get quite lean before you step on stage. Because I did that
100%.
in I first competed in 2015, but in 2013, for no other reason other than like my own vanity, I guess I wanted to try and get as lean as possible,
Yeah,
and that actually, by pure accident, served as a really good stepping stone to then like competing for the first time. Because I delved into those areas where you get pretty your energy drops. You start to feel some of the side effects of low body fat, but without going crazy. So it was a nice little warm up in a way. So yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's a really good point. Yeah,
Totally, yeah. Because it is a shock, right? It does.
yeah, it is.
It sucks, right? Let's
Yeah,
be
yeah,
honest. It
yeah.
does suck, right? You get used to, because I get asked this question, like, what's it feel like being that lean? You
Mm,
get used to the feeling, right? You get used to
mm.
feeling like shit. Like you
Yeah,
get
yeah, yeah.
feeling like you can't lift your legs up. You get
Mm.
like, oh God, I've got 6,000 steps to do. Like, oh
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
You just do it, don't you? You get used to it, because that's how it is. You get
You
used
do.
to the hunger. You get used to the hunger. It's part of it. There's no point like dwelling on it. You cannot eat.
Mm.
These are your calories. These are your meals. That's it. There's no choice. It's taken away from me. So,
Mm.
and back years ago, every meal you couldn't wait for the next. You couldn't wait
Mm.
for it, and then you're kind of wishing for the prep to be over when it shouldn't be like that. It should be. You should just be excited. It shouldn't be like I can't wait till I can eat like loads of food and live a normal life. Like that's you should be a bodybuilder then. That's
Mm.
not bodybuilder's not for you because you're never going to improve, are you?
Yeah. No, really, really good point. Yeah. Yeah, you made some great points, Mark. Really enjoyed that. We're gonna do some quick fire questions now. What's your
Let's go ahead.
favorite film?
Oh, good question. You know what? It's a
Mm.
it's a strange one.
Okay.
White chicks.
Oh, classic. Yeah, yeah. I love that.
Classic. I made the wife watch it the other day. She didn't find it funny. It's upset me.
Right, right, yeah. That is a classic film. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. I saw it with Sarah like 10 years ago. It's so
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Silly.
Yeah. What's your favorite prep food?
The porridge.
It is
Porridge oats.
okay.
Porridge oats and whey. Yeah.
That's four people in a row now that have answered that. So
Porridge oats and whey. I was gonna say something else, but it definitely is that. Like
it's the
that
spot, right?
becomes like becomes everything to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Um, yeah. What did your oats drop to? I asked Dan Sutcliffe, and he said he was
Uh,
down to 60 grams a day.
yeah. I think they were very similar. Maybe
Really?
50, 60 grams
Wow. Okay.
around that. So nothing like pathetic, like 20 grams. Yeah, nothing
Yeah,
what
yeah.
we like having. Yeah, yeah.
But pretty low. Okay. And what's your
Pretty low.
favorite off-season food?
Probably chicken pasta, to be honest.
Okay. Yep.
Chicken pasta is probably my favorite off-season food.
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
on prep, it's too dense, isn't it? As you know, pasta's
Mm,
dense, and you
yeah.
just can't have it. But yeah, off season is probably chicken and pasta.
Yeah, good answer. Yeah, yeah. I didn't touch it on prep. As you know, I was eating sweets backstage before the
Yeah,
Heart of
yeah,
England, but I still wouldn't have pasta, not that late in prep. Maybe at the
yeah.
early stages, but yeah, no, that's a good answer there. What are your hobbies outside of bodybuilding, Mark?
Weird one. I don't know if a few people know, but I love tennis.
Okay,
Literally, I used to be a tennis player again before I was a gymnast. I've done a lot of things,
really?
but I was quite a good tennis player. And yeah, I don't play it now, but I'm
Mm,
really into watching pretty much again. The wife will go mad, but I watch a lot of tennis,
right,
uh,
right.
a lot of tennis,
Mm,
we did have a knock around during COVID and times like that. But as you know, I just can't move.
mm,
I can't rotate my arm to get
right.
properly yeah, that's probably my main hobby
Okay.
is tennis. Yeah, watching tennis.
Has bodybuilding affected the way you can swing and
Oh
stuff
yeah,
massively?
like when I was a tennis player, I was 56 kilo.
Right, okay, bit different then. Yeah, wow,
Yeah, a bit
that's
different
like
and real fast on the court. But yeah, I've still got it in here. Like I still think I
mm,
can play like the serving and the backhand and the top spin. It's still there, but it takes a while to get warm and understand. All right, okay, you gotta rotate,
right,
start rotating. But I'd get thrashed. Like
right, yeah,
truthfully,
yeah.
I try and joke with some people, but if they played me, they'd absolutely dominate me.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah, you got to make some sacrifices with bodybuilding, and that's
And obviously, I'll watch bodybuilding. So like whenever
mm,
any of the shows are, I'll watch most of the
mm,
shows and see one naturals, and then two I'll watch the enhanced guys and
yeah, yeah,
the
mm,
Arnold Classics and the New York Pros. I'll watch as much as I can.
yeah. Oh, cool. Well, yeah, good answers. This has been a lot of fun, Mark. Thank you so much for coming on. This is
Pleasure, mate.
been very enjoyable, and yeah, I'll leave the links to your social media in the description below. But yeah, thanks for watching, listening, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Cool.